2.
Welcome back to Talking Sports, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here with my main man, Kip Kiefer. And finally, we got Danny Sheridan on the line. We had to twist some wires, put some cans together, Kip. But
some
we finally
coat hangers
got him.
and, yeah.
Danny, welcome to the show, buddy.
Forgive me, I've been in New York for 10 days and I'm losing my voice, but always good to be on with you and Kip.
Well, we love having you. You're a legend in our business, and you honor us with your presence. We want to talk a little SEC football. I know that shocks you, Danny, since my partner's the legend.
Danny, we're going to run through some win-loss totals with you, if you don't mind, Vegas win-loss totals. But before we get into that, I've seen an article and some comments that you made about Gus Malzahn and the Auburn Tigers. I'd like to get you to elaborate a little bit on what I heard on Feinbaum recently, what you said about Gus and the Gus bus.
Well, I basically said that Auburn's administration has accepted mediocrity with him the last 5 years, and I'll give you an example of mediocrity. He's had one 6-loss season, 5 years. He's had one 5-loss seasons, and he's had 3 4-loss seasons. Do you think a coach is worth $49 million for 7 years if he averages a little over 4 losses a year? Just curious. Would you consider that mediocrity?
I would consider that the definition of mediocrity in sports, Kip, wouldn't you?
I would consider it nonsense. $49 million to be basically a 500 coach, that's astounding.
Well, you know, a lot of people, Danny, says that there's no coaches really on the hot seat in the SEC. How hot is the Gus Malzahn seat right now?
Well, I used to always say that if he beat Alabama, which when he beat Alabama with the kick 6, and he beat Georgia with a whatever's miracle in Jordan Air. But if it hadn't been for that, he'd be 0-8 against them. But I've always said that if he beat Alabama, that would be enough to save him. I don't think that this year. I think if he loses 4 or 5 games, he's out of there. Assuming they've got someone to pay him off, and I assume they do. And again, it's an embarrassment to pay a coach that kind of money. But that's what happens when a president negotiates, a well-intentioned president who's good at academia, but not good at setting a contract for a football coach. And Malzahn's agent, Malzahn should give him 50% instead of the normal 10 or 20%, because that's the most ridiculous contract in college football. And that is the opinion of head coaches that coach against him and that know him.
Amazing. Let's, like Legend said, Las Vegas has come out with over-unders for win totals this year. While we're on the subject, let's start with Auburn. Las Vegas believes that 7.5, Danny, is the number. I look at this schedule, which is absolutely brutal once again. Not only do they play another tough game in their opener with Oregon in the Kickoff Classic, they also, as a crossover opponent, add Florida from the East, one of only 2 teams that are really scary over there. What do you think, 7.5? Is that, like they say, is that too high?
Well, I don't want. I'll comment on them, but I'm not going to predict them. I'm going to do that in August. And the reason why I say that, Kip, is if I say over and then I change my mind in August, it's like I'm giving both sides. And I would imagine a fair over and under would be 8 for Auburn. And when you hear about, when you correctly say, well, the schedule's tough, where's this guy been for 6 years? What's he been recruiting? I'm tired of reading about we got to have a rebuilding year. If it weren't for junior college transfers, quarterbacks, Cam Newton, Nick Marshall, and last year Stidham, his record would be mediocre squared or triple squared. It'd be horrible. So I don't think when you hear the schedule's tough, every SEC schedule in the West is brutal, and the same in the East too. Not brutal, but SEC is almost impossible to go undefeated. Saban's done it maybe 1 or 2 times out of 11 or 12 years. And again, I don't buy that. Well, the schedule's tough. Hey, where you been for 6 years? Saban reloads. This guy tries to patch a team together every year, and he screws up every quarterback. But Cam Newton couldn't screw him up, I don't guess. But anyway, sorry for the garrulous answer.
Garrulous is good.
Love it.
I know Legend wants to ask you about a team over in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, Danny.
Well, let me stop you for a second. Auburn they'll be favored over Oregon. They're a better team, just like I said last year. They'd be favored over Washington, should win the game. So it's not like, oh my goodness, they're starting off with Oregon. again, if you've been recruiting just a half-ass job, you'd have a much better team. Their defense could be, is one of the better ones in the country. Well, that's to be expected. What about the offense? I don't want to hear this stuff. Well, we're rebuilding. Last year we had all young offensive linemen. Whose fault is that? Anyway, next question.
Hey, Dan, I heard Matt Jones of Kentucky Radio say this week that Alabama was a team on the downward spiral. I thought this was the most ludicrous thing I've ever heard, Kip. Where you see this Alabama program? I seen recently that you said if Alabama played Clemson in week 1, they would be a 2.5-point favorite. Is this Alabama team going down, or is this dynasty still on firm ground?
Well, the first question I'd ask, I don't know Matt personally, but I think he does a nice job if we're talking about the same person from Kentucky. But first question I'd have for Matt is, were you drug tested that day? That's the first question. Second would be, if not, maybe you're trying to get ratings, but no, down spiral. Well, let me say this. If the Alabama went undefeated in the regular season last year and the playoffs, and they'll probably lose a game this year. If that's considered a down spiral, okay, I'll accept it. Maybe one loss, but no, they're Alabama and Clemson are the only two teams that I have in preseason that have a 70% chance, which is really high, of being in the college football playoffs. As an example, Texas, who I understand some Yahoo picked Texas to play in the national championship against Clemson. Texas had about a 20% chance to make the playoffs. Auburn would have a 0% chance to make the college football playoffs. But no, this year, Alabama and Clemson, in fact, I'll make some odds. Alabama and Clemson, excuse me, Legend, just those two teams would be a 6-5 favorite. Both those two teams to win the national championship over all 100-plus teams in the college football. So again, Alabama and Clemson together, either one, be a 6-5 favorite to win the crown this year. That's pretty impressive, and I don't ever remember doing that.
We got one more segment, hopefully with Danny here, a quick one after this short break. Right back on Talking Sports.